Hello and welcome to Crossout, bringing games that you missed to the spotlight. Soon it's Halloween time, and that means only one thing: scary stuff. And one of the scary games that really gets overlooked a lot is the game called The Suffering, in which you play Torque, an inmate in Abbott State Penitentiary on Current Island, and you are trialed and sent there for killing your wife and children. The thing is, you don't really remember you doing it, and they have no evidence against you or to support you, but they tend to send you there anyway. Eventually in the game you will find out if you did it or not, but I'm not gonna ruin it for you. The greatest point in this game is the atmosphere and personality it has. A lot of characters have different personalities, though quite stereotypical killers, neo-Nazis, rapists in prison. But also there are a lot of correctional officers which sometimes be really dedicated to the job and sometimes just say screw it, I prefer an inmate over a monster. And the thing is, when you arrive at the prison, quite everything breaks out and there are monsters all over the prison, killing everything they can see and just destroying the place. So you and everybody else in this prison have to fight their way out to survive, because everybody wants to live, of course. Now, the graphics are not superb, especially by today's standards, but they get the idea done quite well and pass on the style of the game quite fine actually. The sound is really amazing and it fits the atmosphere really well, and also you can distinguish each enemy by its sound, by the sound it makes, and you can tell if it's coming for you or just running around not noticing you yet. So you can prepare for that, and sometimes it's just really nerve-wracking to hear some of the monsters coming at you, but you can just nail the point where they're gonna hit you from. Now, there's a lot of attention to details also, so there'll be like ratings on the wall and occasional phone calls you can hear from around, with a lot of references or just in-game exposition and stuff. Also, you'll hear radio transmissions from the CEOs, and there's sometimes interesting stuff to view in the security cameras. The weapons you'll be getting in the game vary along the normal prison weapons, starting from a sheath and moving on to guns like revolvers, Tommy guns, and shotguns. Also there's a quest when you can find parts and assemble a flamethrower, but you can as well finish the game without even bothering to look for it. The game is quite linear really, because, well, it's a prison and you don't really have a lot of room to run in, but there's sometimes places when you can stray from the main storyline for a little extra exposition information, and sometimes there's a little nice stash of weapons and supplies there. Through the game, except for weapons and ammunition of course, you'll be collecting Xambium to heal yourself and flashlight batteries to power your flashlight. Also, there are maps you can find and they will help you navigate through the prison and the island. Eventually you will run out of the prison and look at the other sites to see on this island, like the abandoned asylum or a POW camp from World War II, which also have their dark and gritty stories to tell and to involve you in them. As you can see, they're trying to make the prison as plausible as possible, so there are radio transmitters pretty much everywhere and some pictures on the walls at the CO offices, while the rooms have writings on them and sometimes there's vague counters. The monsters in the game actually are greatly designed and greatly stylized, and just sometimes they actually even have different skins for them. But they really look quite awesome, and some of them are really original and interesting to look at least when they're not trying to kill you, that is. Now, along the adventures you'll see quite a few freaky stuff that might make you jump and just look on territory. The game pretty much relies on atmospheric scares as well as sometimes jump scares. But mostly it's about the atmospheric part, and it does it really well. The rooms look great, the enemies look great, the loading screens have those little text bits which you can read, and they're quite interesting while the loading gets. And there are also logs for the monsters, tell you information about them and what death they recreate, and information about the island and locations on the island. Some you'll actually have to look around and find yourself. There are also 3 ghosts you'll meet. One is Dr. Killjoy, which will want to clear from a sickness. The other one is Horace, an inmate who killed his wife. And also Hermes, which was an executioner in Abbott, and he liked it so much he just guessed himself to the sickness, as Dr. Killjoy calls it, and you might question it, is your ability to turn into a monster to destroy everything in sight, but it drains your life slowly, so you'll have to use it carefully. Every monster introduction gets a little cinematic, which sometimes has some dark humor in it, and sometimes just weird things. All the monsters have their strengths and weaknesses, and every monster has actually a quite easy way to beat it, but it's not that easy to find it out and get used to it. But eventually you might notice that certain monsters are weaker to different types of weapons, or just different weapons work better on them, and you start using them against them in every encounter. Now, there'll be a lot of battles in tight spots, and you have to maneuver carefully and just try to survive, because Xombium gets quite limited and it's hard to stack on it because the maximum bottles you can have is 9. Also, Torque will encounter quite a few visions of his wife, of his past, and of the island itself, and sometimes some combinations between them. And he'll see different stuff, and sometimes they'll provoke appearances of monsters, and other times they'll just give you a little room to breathe. Eventually you encounter really big mass fights and stronger versions of certain monsters, which the Insanity mode will really help you defeat. But if you're low on life in Xombium, Insanity mode, which is the monster transformation, will pretty much be an enemy for you, so you'll have to look out from that. Also, every monster has its way of killing you, just to manifest its way of death, and it gets quite interesting to see them all. Also, the game was released as a freeware supported by advertisement not so long ago, so now you actually have no excuse but to get